Going on, everyone? I know it's been a while since I've been on here, and today I want to discuss this Arkansas House bill that I was asked about by some of my students who have some concern with it. And I wanted to take the time to not just give you my outlook and opinion on it, but I wanted to actually walk you through the bill itself so you can see word for word what it says. That way you understand what it is, what's being proposed, and understand that first of all, this is a proposed bill. It's not actually state law yet. I have seen some videos where uh, I'm not sure who the creators are, but they're talking about how there's already drivers being pulled over for English proficiency checked, and I don't believe that. You can't do it with a mere proposal, and that's all that this is for right now until it gets approved by their governor. So let's look at the bill so you understand it just like I do. Here's the actual bill itself. House Bill 1569 from the state of Arkansas. So understand that this is for Arkansas only. It's not federal. It's an amendment to their admin code in Arkansas. And you'll see they actually published this back on the 24th of February, but so it's still pretty fresh. And in the bill itself, I highlighted some stuff that I wanted to cover with you guys. You'll see here what they're trying to amend is this part right here. First of all, saying reciprocity, notwithstanding any law to the contrary, a person may drive a commercial motor vehicle if the person has a commercial driver license issued by any state or province or territory of Canada. So not only is this can this affect the Mexican drivers, but there's also Canadian drivers. So that slash through is what they're trying to amend, so it has to be issued by a state in accordance with the minimum federal standards. Okay, you can't be revoked out of service. The next section says requirement to possess domestic CDL. An individual operating a commercial motor vehicle within this state shall possess a valid CDL issued by a state, territory, or possession of the United States, DC, or Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. So again, this is saying that in the state of Arkansas itself, they want to require that anybody driving a CDL vehicle or a vehicle requiring CDL has to be operated with a U.S. state CDL, DC, or Puerto Rico. The next section is the one that has the concern with the foreigners. Operation of CMV by certain visa holders. A holder of a B1, B2, or B1/B2 combination visa as existed on January 1st, 25, shall not perform labor or services operating a commercial motor vehicle within the state. The act of operating a CMV is considered labor. All right, so they're saying right there clearly that if you have B1 drivers, whether they're from Mexico or Canada, then they would be prohibited from operating a commercial motor vehicle within the state of Arkansas. Upon finding that a holder is operating, the vehicle is supposed to be impounded. Operator who violates this shall be subject to a fine of $5,000. Let's see. English proficiency. This is kind of another part of regulation that I have some deep discussion on. In their state law, they're trying to implement this section saying an operator of a CMV shall demonstrate proficiency in the English language sufficient to read road signs and warning signs, understand traffic control devices, and communicate effectively in an emergency with emergency services, law enforcement, and other drivers. Now, this kind of doesn't, this part specifically right here with English proficiency shouldn't be a concern for companies that are hiring Canadian or Mexican drivers, because when you go into the actual FMCSRs and you look at 391.11, the general qualifications under the driver qualification part, paragraph B2 says that a driver is qualified to drive a motor vehicle if they can read and speak the English language sufficiently to converse with the general public, to understand highway traffic signs and signals in the English language, to respond to official inquiries, and to make entries on reports and records. So that was that regardless of that Arkansas state law implementation there. If you're hiring Canadian or Mexican drivers, they should already have a proficiency to be able to speak English as it is. Now, it doesn't say at what level they have to be able to that they have to speak it. It just says it's sufficient to be able to understand traffic signs and then just have general conversation. So that was already a requirement for your DOT drivers as it was. So that shouldn't be a concern uh, for companies that hadn't been doing that, because that was already required by the FMCSRs anyway, the federal law. This is just an extra implementation under state law for Arkansas. This next section says non-citizen operating a CMV without domestic CDL. So what happens now if I'm operating in Arkansas without a domestic or U.S. state CDL? Person commits an offense if they're operating without a domestic CDL. If he or she is not a citizen of the U.S., operates a CMV, doesn't hold a valid CDL issued by state, territory, possession, USDC, or Puerto Rico. Operating a CMV without a domestic CDL is subject to a fine of $5,000. All right. So there you see this is just the implementation of the actual criminal offenses into their state law. And then they implemented some stuff saying if you're not a valid domestic CDL holder and you cause death or injury, then it's upgraded to felonies. And I think that was all I wanted to point out. Now, here at the very end, I want you to see in section 4, it says, it is found and determined by the General Assembly of the State of Arkansas that the implementation of this act is essential to the safety of citizens of the state of Arkansas, and that this act is immediately necessary because a delay in implementing could cause irreparable harm to public safety. Therefore, an emergency is declared to exist, and this act being immediately necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, and safety shall become effective on, number 1, the date of its approval by the governor. If the bill is neither approved nor vetoed by the governor, the expiration of the period of time during which the governor may veto the bill, or if the bill is vetoed by the governor and the veto is overwritten, the date the last house overrides the veto. So again, this is just a proposed bill that hasn't become law yet. So this isn't something that should already be being enforced because it's not state law yet. It's just a bill that was proposed, and it's still got to pass their legislature just like any state bill would. Now, my personal opinion is that I don't think this is going to pass. Number 1, I can already see that there's going to be a bunch of like trucking associations and stuff, a lot of industry kind of advocacy groups that are going to get together and petition the state of Arkansas on this. That's number 1. They're already going to have a battle to fight there, because I'm sure even if it was passed, they're going to be sued, and then it's going to hang up in court. Number 2 is, and the bigger reason I see, this is going to cost Arkansas a lot of money. Like they're going to lose a lot of revenue, not just from the goods that are transported in and out of their state, but you think about like their the loss even with permitting, like their whatever intrastate authority revenue is from companies that operate intrastate. They're going to lose money from a lot of money through IFTA, right? Because now, even though they're a participating member, they're not going to receive as much revenue back to the state of Arkansas, because there's not going to be a bunch of trucks putting fuel there because they're not driving through there. Imagine how much revenue is lost through like just generally, like with the cost of like hotels, travel. There's just so much that they're not understanding how much money they're about to lose. And once that's really understood and probably studied, I would highly doubt that this passes I highly doubt this is going to pass their state legislature. It's too much money to lose, and then a lot of fight with advocacy groups that are going to petition against this. So I really don't see this passing. I would be thoroughly surprised if this actually passed and was enacted, because there's just too much for the state of Arkansas to lose. And once they really study that, I would bet you this doesn't even proceed up to their state senate. It's probably just gonna die upon initial vote. So anyway, but that's what it's saying. You don't have to be so concerned right now if you're a company with Canadian or with Canadians or Mexican CDL drivers, because this wouldn't be enforceable until it actually passed and was enacted into their state law. So thanks for watching.